Hello again, and welcome to the Dorothy L Sayers podcast. Today's podcast is going to be on the shorter side because I wanted to share with you quickly an exciting discovery. I have a new podcast mic, provided by generous donors. It's thrilling, right? Also, a point of order. If you hit follow on Spotify, I don't know what it does for you, but it makes me feel really great. If you hit the bell on this podcast, that means you get notified every time a new episode comes out. Since that only happens once every few weeks, it would be a nice and infrequent heads up for you. Now let's get to the discovery I really want to talk about, the discovery that blew my American-centric mind. Okay, so, by the way, any glitches in recording, that's due to my old computer, not to my fancy new mic. We're going to begin with a short story. I, Lindsay Scholl, wanted to do a podcast on Sayers and distributism, which was an economic idea co-founded by G.K. Chesterton and Hilaire Belloc, which put the, what's the right term? Put the power of production and the power of capital in the hands of the people. But it wasn't Marxism, it wasn't socialism, but it certainly wasn't capitalism either. Anyway, Sayers seemed to be sympathetic with distributism. Now, this is not a podcast episode on economics, but economics got it all started. In my hunt for Sayers and distributism, I found that in 1947, or actually earlier, she had written an essay in a distributist journal called Distributist Perspectives, Volume 2. And if you're counting, I think I said distributist something like 4 times, now 5, counting that shout out to the counting. Well, if I'm going to do a podcast on distributism, and Sayers wrote an essay for a distributist journal, I need to read that essay, or at least know about it, so I tried to track it down. And in my internet searching, I could only find a picture of the front of the journal, but the cover itself was usually blurry, and it wasn't that helpful anyway because it just said that Sayers was a contributor to it. So I tried Amazon to find the title. I tried A-Books. I think I tried Barnes & Noble. No table of contents for Volume 2. I knew she wrote the essay. Couldn't find the darn title, and now I was starting to remember, or starting to forget how I even knew that she wrote something, and I think Barbara Reynolds had originally pointed it out. I'm not sure. Anyway, have her name, have the journal, no title. Here, as an aside, how wonderful is the internet? The possibility that I even had a chance to track down a titleless article written in an out-of-print journal covering an obscure economic theory from the comfort of my own home makes me tip my hat to algorithms everywhere. Still, there it was. I couldn't find it, and I thought I was stuck until on Google Preview, I found a little snippet preview of the cover page of the Sayers article. And I kid you not, I could only see just the bottom half of the words, but it was enough. And the words read, "How free is the press?" Got it. I'll just type in Sayers, "How free is the press?" and see if some enterprising archivist has put up a PDF of this troublesome essay. I typed it in, hit enter, and felt like my computer exploded. In response to Sayers' "How free is the press?", Google reported 13,700,000 results. Nearly 14 million. I haven't searched through each one, but the first page told me that I hadn't mistyped, because in all the little blurbs, there was her name and the dates for her life. And the video options, nearly about 57,000 of those, her picture was on the thumbnail. So there it was. It was really her. Now, round about page 3 of the videos, the algorithm started breaking down, and I was getting randomly videos about babies being born in a 7-Eleven parking lot. But still, there were still pages and pages and videos of real Google search results for Sayers' "How free is the press?" Not only that, but there were summaries of her essay, objectives to learn about her essay, questions you may be asked about her essay, more resources actually than I'd ever seen for any Sayers essay online. Now for the fabulous part. On closer inspection, most of those links had some reference to the Bihar board or the Bihar school examination. And all of those videos with Sayers' pictures on them were in Hindi. It turns out that Sayers is required reading in India. What is going on? Okay, so the Bihar board, that I've never heard that phrase before in my life, but it was established in 1952, and it conducts secondary and senior secondary examinations for students. It's considered to be like one of the most important examinations of the state, and that you can tell that by just the number of Google resources available for it. It's a primary criterion for admission for higher education institutions and is also used for recruitment to various jobs. So you got to do well on this test, I think, to do well in the Indian system of education or hiring. And by the way, if anybody out there knows better, namely listeners from India, feel free to correct me. You can email me at Dorothy L. Sayers podcast at gmail.com. So students take this exam in 10th and 12th grade. Sayers is listed under Class 12 or 12th grade English prose portion of the exam, along with Martin Luther King, Bertrand Russell, and Pearl S. Buck, among others. And I would note that the Indian publishers have faithfully maintained her L as over against several of her English publishers. Okay, in fact, the only complete copy of the essay that I could find online was a photocopy of an Indian textbook. It's Rainbow Press, with the essay divided into number sections and attended by a glossary, true and false questions, long answer questions, such as, what is garbling? How does Sayers illustrate this form of distortion? It read just like a textbook that you would read in high school. My mind is still blown and a little chagrined. Here I am in my American or possibly Eurocentric world, pedaling fast and furious to get the educated world to recognize how valuable Sayers is. And I'm talking to you, classical educators and beyond. Not just lost tools of learning, there's more. And India has been doing this all along. Good job, India. Now, a word about the essay itself and some questions of my own. How Free is the Press was published in 1941 for Distributive Perspectives, Volume 2, and then again in her no longer published book, Unpopular Opinions, in 1947. So that's just the background. Now, as far as I can tell, it's only published by Rainbow Press in India, but I could be wrong. The essay itself is not about government censorship at all, but about how printed materials, say a newspaper, are restricted by two significant factors: the interests of the advertisers and the wealth of the newspaper owners. And it turns out that the more expensive a journal or newspaper is, the freer it is, according to Sayers. Because it doesn't need, well, she would not like that according to Sayers. She's just like, look, it's true or it's not true. So I'm just going to go for it. The more expensive a journal or newspaper is, the freer it is. Because it doesn't need advertising and other interests to bolster its existence. But that means a lot of people can't or won't afford it. Then she goes on to talk about all the ways printed material can be manipulated to approximate truth, and in approximating it, twisting it. The innocent reader of a newspaper or journal, especially a cheaper one, will undoubtedly be subjected to, quote, sensational headlines, false emphasis, suppression of context, garbling, patently untrue statements. So she has a reference where she was being interviewed, and one of the and the report in the interview, in the printed record of the interview, the reporter said that her eyes glittered behind her glasses. And Sayers like, what is that? My eyes glittered? What does that mean? Inaccurate reporting of the facts, plain reversal of the facts, random and gratuitous invention, and deliberate miracle mongering, such as Sayers had given a speech of 20,000 words in an hour and a half. She says that's impossible. And I guess I believe her. Apparently her speech in that instance was only 8,000 words, which the offending reporter could have counted for himself since he had the speech in his hands. Anyway, side note, in one of those, I think it was random and gratuitous invention, she says that the reporter said that she liked cats. And she says that's not true, which Sayers, come on, girl. Like, your letters are full of cats. You have cats all over the place. You write poems about cats and two cats. I don't know where that came from. Okay, as you're probably guessing, How Free is a Press is a lively combo of Sayers' brutal logic about the limitations of a free press and her venting about the abuse she has received at the hands of the media, which is a favorite topic of hers, particularly in her letters. But I'm wondering why this specific essay had been selected for English Prose Grade 12 examination. A very quick internet search reveals two truths. First, the freedom of the press is guaranteed under Article 19 of the Indian Constitution. And second, in the 2022 rankings of the World Press Freedom Index, India's rank had dropped down to 150 out of 180 countries. That means that journalists don't feel very safe there. By the way, number 180 is North Korea. Number 1 is Norway. The United States is number 42, and Sayers' own United Kingdom is number 24, in case you were wondering. Now, I don't know all the criteria for the index, and I'm sure there's some argument about particular placements. But according to one source at least, India is not a model for free speech in the press. So why an essay on free speech as required reading? I can think of some reasons, really. I've got some ideas, but frankly, I'm not that qualified to answer the question. And as Dante says in the 13th canto of his Paradise, quote, "And to thy feet be this a hobble wrought of lead, to make thee move at a sluggard pace towards yea or nay, where thou perceivest not." In other words, don't say yes or no if you don't know what you're talking about. Thence come rash judgments, mostly incorrect and prejudiced, and stubborn all the more that self-conceit shackles the intellect. In other words, once you say an opinion, even if it's completely uninformed, you're more loyal to it. So since I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to stop there, except to note that Sayre's essay is not about governmental freedom of the press, but how economics and slipshod work obscure accurate reporting. Well, there it is. I'm happy to share this Indian revelation with you, and we'll keep you posted if anything else turns up. That's it for now. Thank you for joining me and learning about Sayers International. I'd love to make this title a series. We could go Sayers International Germany or Sayers International China. Who knows how far her writing has reached? If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, please email me at DorothyLSayersPodcast@gmail.com. And God bless you.